And that, along with other things, really kind of made me feel like, man, I really got to do something. So understand that even then, God was tugging at my heart to structure something. But we realized that when you touch a family, it's better for you to holistically, and that's what I mean by holistic. We take that approach where we're looking at the family as well, right? Because here's the thing, for if I'm in the men's prison and I'm seeing a guy, he's either a father or a husband. So that means that strong mentor, that strong male presence is gone from the home. So now the mom is there on her own. She needs support, right? She needs structure. She needs something for the kids, right? For her, right? So what we look at is it's a program that's designed to reach the families as well. So let me tell you what that looks like. Say, for instance, I go down to Jackson and I meet individual that's incarcerated, Joe Smith. And Joe Smith has a wife out here, and he's got a teenage son. And that son is on that road, and mom is tripping. We need to reach out to that family and say, hey, listen, we've got a program, right? We can help you. And I don't want to hit them in the head over the Bible when they walk in, right? The Bible, Matthew 5:16 says we got to shine our light before men so that they can see our good works and God can be glorified. We got to do the work before God can be glorified, right? So for me, I want to make sure that we're doing that work, and that's what I consider this. This is a good work, right? When you look at a good work, this is something really good to get involved in because of what it represents. Our mission is to provide programming that addresses spiritual, educational development, as well as solutions to assist with long-term employment and housing. And we'll get into a little bit more of that. But when I say programming, so this is what this is. When I spoke with Sheldon about this is an actual program. Okay, this is not, and well, let me use this word. Most times when you talk to churches and you say, do you have, something that they can put in, you say, yeah, I got prison. And that usually consists of maybe 2 or 3 people that are going into the local church, right? This is totally different. This is a program. This is something that's going to be set up where we're going to be working with court systems. We're going to be tied into different things with the Georgia Department of Corrections. So there will be a point in time where this will grow and we'll start to see revenue being generated because services are being provided. Does that make sense? So it's important that we understand what we are, what we're doing. The reason that it's important to connect with churches, okay, we can go to the next one, Noah, is because of this. We work off of the 4 pillars of transformation, right? This is what we call spiritual development, educational development, employment, long-term employment, and long-term housing. In parentheses, I put long-term because that's really important to understand, right? We'll get into some statistics a little bit later, but 68% of people are returned to prison within 3 years, 85% within 5. And all of these reasons are behind that. So when I spoke with Sheldon about the vision of what we want to do, here's what we're wanting to do, because I want to make sure the picture is really clear. We are partnering with you all just like the food ministry here, and it's a program. Even though I'm a member now of Park Place, right? I'm still operating as the founder and CEO of POI. But we're gonna actually have a physical setup here where we'll have people that can come in Monday through Friday is our goal to get to that point, right? I've already spoken to my board of directors about putting some type of stipend in place or something so that we can help, have some presence, right? I've already reached out to some people in Gwinnett County. I've already reached out to the Snellville Police Department, making the connections to let them know, okay, we're here now. We have a program so that we can actually have people who are, they may be court ordered, and they have to come here for a life skills program, right? A lot of these guys have never even opened up a bank account. They don't even know what it's like to budget. You say budget and they're like, what is that? So it's the life skills that we have to be able to get involved, because if you get involved in the fabric of a person's life, then you can reach them with anything. If I come to you and I'm struggling and you help me get on my feet, and then you tell me, oh, by the way, man, I just want you to know it's the love of Christ in me that motivates me to do that. That's going to get their attention a lot quicker than if they walk in, Matthew 5:6, and I use that same approach when I go in, right? It's really important for us to make sure that we make a connection, and I was talking with Roger about this, and we'll talk a little bit about the model. But the spiritual development component is really important because Park Place is a church. So we're better to get spiritual development than the church. So what is the goal from that perspective? Well, because we're a civic and social organization, and because the Georgia Department has laws in place to say you can't discriminate from a religious standpoint, right? We can't just say, well, we're gonna focus on Christians. When we go in, because of the type of program that we're offering, there may be a Muslim that wants to participate in our program. There may be an atheist that wants to participate in our program. But guess what? You think I'm gonna tell them no? No. Because here's what I want. Oh, you're an atheist? You don't believe in God? Okay. Well, I'm not gonna beat you over the head, but he doesn't know at the time. But the only thing that motivates me to do this is the love of Christ anyway. So I'm gonna win you over in the long run, because I'm gonna get involved in your life. I'm gonna help you, I'm gonna help your family, I'm gonna help your kids. And then I'm gonna tell you, man, you might wanna try Jesus. And it's hard for him or her to deny that after you've already affected it, right? So when you look at the spiritual development, if we can get them here, right? I love what Sheldon talks about, work-based model ministry, right? You get people to come, right, to the church and provide programs that affect their lives, right? Then you may have a great opportunity to disciple and keep them here. So the development is there with partnering in the church. The wisdom behind partnering with churches is to be able to create that, because I can't, so now I can go into prison and say, hey man, we got a partnership with Park Place Church out in Snellville. Now they can't accuse me of saying, well, Eric, you're discriminating against. No, I'm not discriminating. That's just a partnership that we have. You guys knew from the very beginning that we were faith-based. We're not going to turn anybody away, but I'm not going to send somebody to a mosque. I'm not, you know what I mean? But if there's a situation where there's been times where a guy's come and he's asked me, hey man, can you give me some literature in? I got him the literature in. Now that's a hard place to be in, and I'm learning how to deal with that on the inside of the prison, but we're working our way through that, Educational development. The statistics state about 85% of individuals who participate in some extended educational program are less likely to go back, right? So what we do as an organization, when you look at our website, I focus on the trades, right? I get guys involved in going to trade school or doing an apprenticeship, but it's still secondary education. It still gets them in a position where they're learning something. But here's the beauty of that. Now they can get involved in long-term employment, because especially now, like right now, infrastructure, construction, that's huge. Trades are booming. There's more jobs or more careers than there are people available. So it's not hard. I've been working at that, and it's been basically a three-man show for the last 5 or 6 years. Our board is more of an advisory board, but we've got some people that get involved. But, you're looking at the person that was probably out there beating the pavement. My wife gets involved with some things, of course, some of the other members, but the opportunity now is to grow, right? And, when the pandemic hit, it really shut down our model, because our model was always contingent upon us going in. Then when the pandemic hit, we couldn't get in, and I was like, man, people still need help. It had always been our vision to have a campus, right? And to be able to build a facility where we could house them, train them, love on them all at the same time, then say, okay, you guys are ready. So Sheldon is providing an opportunity for us, like he said, to start small and big. And I'm excited about what God can do here, because not only do we have the main thing in place, which is people who have a heart to love, like Christ loved, but we also have space. We got something that we can work with now. So that changes the narrative, that changes the conversation for me when I go in and I talk to a court system, or I go in and I talk to somebody, and I say, man, we've got a physical location where we can do classes, where we can do this. Now that changes things, right? So that's why we need you all. We need volunteers. One of the things that, we're gonna need immediately is a site coordinator for this one, right? A site coordinator is gonna be the person that really facilitates the program here at Park Place. And it needs to be a person that's a member of Park Place. Now, in that particular role, of course, I can't do that, because then that's a conflict of interest, right? But one of you all who's a member can do that, that position, right, is what we're looking at right now, starting off with something like a stipend. But it'll grow into something that will become You know, because the goal is to let this organization grow where we can also create opportunities where people, because we need good people. And we need good people to stay with us to grow, right? And the goal is to be able, we can demonstrate that, not, let me take that word out. Yeah. When we demonstrate that we can do that here at Park Place, then that's a model for us to take to other churches, to other places and say, look at what we did. And you can do it too, right? So even in that aspect, right? The goal is to be able to do training. I was talking to Roger, so we need two people, two types of people. We need people to go in, and then we need people to work with the reentry out here. So what does that look like going in? So here are the people that we're looking for to go in. You have to be able to have a spirit of discernment. And this is so very important. I can't stress this enough. When you're working with an organization like ours, all it takes is one person to come out and do something and messes everything up, right? So it's really important that we know who we're getting before we get it, right? So the person that's going in, they're gonna be going through a screening process. They're gonna go in, they're gonna meet with these people, they're gonna talk with the counselors. Everything that I'm telling you all, I've already done. So all of this stuff is set up, right? I've already put this in work, in the foundation, all of that. We can get you credentialed so that you can get in, the training that you need, all of that. But your main job will be to go now. If a guy asks you to pray, man, can you pray? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, but they gotta know we're here, because you're gonna go in, right, under maybe Park Place, but you're gonna be partnering with POI. So it's still, you know, we're maintaining our identities both, but they're gonna know, okay, well, I know you're with POI, but we're church, we're with Park Place. So now, the spiritual development part, when they get out, or the family members that are, well, I got family to live in Snellville, tell them to come see us. Now we can grow, and that's how that works, right? So the long-term educational, the development, the housing. You can go to the next one, Noah. So I kind of touched on this already. Although we are not a religious organization, we believe strongly in fostering and nurturing spiritual growth. Our leaders identify as being Christian. Once again, I told you guys that, right? They know this about us. But our organization does not discriminate against other belief systems. Focus on spiritual growth to improve communication within a relationship, managing a crisis, and decision making. What that means is anybody that you encounter in prison is managing a crisis, whether they know it or not, right? And their loved ones are managing a crisis. So what do? Here's what I believe in all my heart. Because we are believers, because we do have the love of Christ in our heart, we have the solution. So now we can come back and we can say, okay, you want to learn how to manage a crisis? We can show you how to do that. You want to learn, okay, Dad, you want to go back out. You don't want to come back in anymore, right? You're tired of your wife telling you, okay, one more time. You got a problem with making decisions, brother. You need a better model of decision making, because this is getting you in trouble. That's what we're here for. Those are life skills, right? So we need people that will be willing to come in and teach a class, a life skills course, right? We have a program that's 8 weeks, right? It's an 8-week program, and each week you focus on something specific, and then that program rotates, right? We need a person that can help facilitate that. What does that program look like? Well, a few things. One, we talk about relationships, because one of the hardest challenges for me was when I came back home, it was really difficult for me to identify with what was going on with other people in my family, because I've been gone so long, right? And I didn't understand that my presence now, here's how it affected me as a man, because I consider myself to be a man's man. So when I came home and the water bill was going up and the light bill was going up, and now the food and the groceries were costing more, and my wife was having to do all of that by herself, that was messing with me. You know, that made me feel some kind of way, but you'd be amazed at how many times that will trigger a man to go back into crime. Because now he can't find the kind of employment, long-term employment that he needs, right? So now he's been out here 3 months, and that pressure is on him because he's looking at his wife struggling, and it's messing with him as a man now, right? So now, okay, it's been 3 months, man, and then his buddy comes along, hey man, I got a couple of keys for you, man, to help you get on your feet. It's easier now to get him back into a life of crime because he didn't, you know, but if we're there as an organization and we can bridge that gap and we can say, hey, look, man, you don't have to do that, you know, and we're able to love on them, then we can get them to change over, you know. We can go to the next slide and kind of go through I kind of touched on this. According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 43% of individuals who participate. Now that number has actually gone up, right? So this is probably 3 or 4 years old because I just did some research. So that number is really more in the 60s now. But I like to look at the statistics every once in a while so I kind of know what's going on and I can kind of gauge where we need to focus at. But here's a statistic that I just looked up. In the state of Georgia, there's roughly about 55,000 people who are incarcerated. Okay? In the next 18 months, they anticipate that close to 15,000 of those are going to be released. Here's the challenge to what? What are they being released to? Because I think me and you spoke about this, but there are roughly 10 transitional centers in the state of Georgia. What a transitional center is very similar to what we're looking at, kind of. But this is where individuals come that are reentering society. So they come to the transitional centers, they get the housing, they're supposed to get the other support that they need. But we know that that doesn't really exist because the numbers wouldn't be so high in recidivism if that was the case, right? So we know that these places are nothing more than just another place to house them until they move on, right? That's not what we want to do. We not only want to house them, but we want to make sure, the vision God has given me is imagine like a small college, community college campus, right? Where you have an environment where you can have a place for them to live, a place for them to train and development, and then you have a facility that's an all-purpose building where you can have chapel service or whatever you want, right? But everything is right there. It's no different than the complexes that they build as prisons. All we're doing is reverse engineering that, right? We're saying we can do that here if you guys can do that there. And we're gonna be more successful at keeping them out than you are at bringing them in because we have a secret. And that secret is the love of Jesus. And every last one of us has his spirit in us. So that's how we change it, right? Because what it does is it puts us in a position to say, okay, here's how we overcome crime. So people want to know, man, this crime rate is going up. It's going to continue to do that. But we've got a solution to how you get through that, right? And so we want to be able to pass that model on. We can go to the next one, Noah. We talked about that. We can go to the next one. We talked about that, the last one. Is that it? Okay. So that's pretty much it. So once again, just kind of recapping, right? I just wanted to give you an overview of who we are, how we started, right? The reason why I do this, so if anybody ever asks why, you know why Eric is so involved in that? Yeah, man, I heard his story, I heard his testimony. You all know that, because here's the reality. For a program like this to really, really be successful, it needs funding. It's gotta have money. And the challenge is that you need to make sure that you're presenting a program that's credible. And that's what we've had to do the last 5, 6, 7 years is establish that credibility. What I believe the Lord is saying now is, okay, go. Now you got another man of God who shares the vision. There's some things that are being presented. So go, move, right? The good thing about being able to work with Sheldon and Jeff, they help pace me. Because I'm one of those guys, man, when you do 15 years in prison and they let you out, you're ready. And I've been like that since I've been out. And my wife has done extremely good at keeping me, right? So the thing is, I've got to have that same, but I've got that energy. I'm just aligned. And my thing is the only way that this can be eradicated is we have to devour it. And we devour it by just showing love. And so I'll go into any battle with the love of Christ in my heart. So that's the program in a nutshell. What I want to do now is I want to take a little bit of time to answer any questions. Anybody have any perspective on anything? This is the time to do that. Anybody? Yes, Rob.
So I know the biggest problem with employment is, of course, you need a background check, even if you want to work at McDonald's. So, and I had a conversation with Shelton also a while back, and I had come across a young lady that said, they were able to, it was a program where you could get the people bonded, and that they could go into different facilities, and employers were more apt to hire the people that are bonded. So that's something that you guys have overcome?
Well, I mean, the challenge is, I guess if you're looking at that kind of thing, but see, with us in construction, we didn't run into that problem.
Mm-hmm.
And we haven't run into that problem because, for one, I think in some of the brochures that I passed out, there is an extended stay that I put in there. And the reason that I put that in there is one of the things that, God gave me the ability to do. I went out and secured a contract for an individual who came out, right? He had already had a little bit of experience running the business, but what we did was we helped him set up. We helped him get his LLC together. We helped him get all of that together, right? And we went and got the contract. It was, a painting contract, and he did it, right? Well, here's the thing that I look at. When you do that, they're not asking you about bonding, and the reason why is because you're working on like a commercial project.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're going into a residential home or you're around. It's commercial project. So when it comes to bonding and stuff like that, we never ran into that problem. Make
Okay,
sense?
right. Well, see, like I have my own business, so and which is pest control and termite. So, if I could hire somebody, I could train somebody, but
Absolutely, sir.
for me to have someone to go into someone's home, they, cause we had that problem in the past. Person got on went in, it stole somebody's sunglasses out of the house, and what they found out, they had a criminal background, then that affected the business
Absolutely.
personally. So, but now I could train a bunch of people, but I would need something for them to be bonded just for the liability as far as the business concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in that situation, I think the thing that you could look at is, I don't know how much flexibility you have in that industry, but you may only assign them to commercial projects where, you may not need them to go into residential, or I don't know, pest control I've never looked at, but I won't turn anybody down. If a business owner comes to me and he says, man, I want to partner with you to help your people get work, I'm gonna try to figure out what we need to do to, hopefully we'll be in a position from a funding standpoint, maybe that's something we can offer. We can do the bond, we can pay for it, but, I don't wanna be an obstacle for anybody. So, whatever we need to do, now, at the same time, I'm gonna be very transparent with people and I'm gonna let them know, we can't do that, we can't do that.
Right.
Anybody else?
Well,
Yes, sir.
no, go ahead. Well, the thing was like, again, the lady who told me about it, they said they had a grant that provided for that situation, but I think the only problem was it was more geared toward females more so than males.
Okay.
So, did that something that you were aware of?
No, I wasn't aware of that grant, but I mean, once again, like one of the things that we'll be looking at is, that'll be part of the person's role, is to kind of research some things, to see what grants are available. Like for instance, the site coordinator. When you're here, we're looking at something maybe 4 hours a day just to start off, 10 to 2, something like that. If somebody comes in and they need some information, because one of the things that I've done is establish some relationship with some trade schools, so we'll have literature here for them. I've already done the research. They'll accept a person with a convicted felon. So, the site coordinator will research certain things, okay? What kind of grants are out there? Those will be things that we can kind of do. Like I spoke earlier about growing.
Right.
The good thing is that if we have people that can get involved, I don't have to worry about doing everything myself.
Right.
You know,
So you mentioned construction. What other areas for a trade are you able to facilitate?
anything. Electrical, welding, plumbing, because these people need help. Because the thing that they'll do is they'll hire somebody as a helper. We got companies hiring people now, paying them $14, $15 an hour to help. And that's not great money, but it's okay for a guy that's just coming out and it's giving him some stability.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what we want to do.
Right.
Because most of these guys are like deers caught in the headlights.
Right.
They don't have any idea. I was like that. I don't know if Sheldon was, but I was like that. I had all of these plans when I was in, but then when I got out, life hit me.
Right.
And then that throws you off because you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. I didn't plan for that.
Right.
Like I said, I was extremely blessed because I had a really great support system. But most of the guys don't have the support system that I had.
Correct.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
What does it look like, or what are the needs, things you're planning for when it comes to like helping the family get back community together? If that's something that's God's giving me a huge passion for. I was able about 6 years ago to work in a rehabilitation type house, and a lot of the people had come straight from prison or had got in trouble and then ended up there or whatever it may be. And what it is working with men and women there for about a year, and regularly, they wrestled exactly with things you're talking about, they're trying to find a job, and they can't, and so then then the old mentality comes in, like, well, if I could just get this, and it was much more than thinking of the quick fix kind of thing. And so there was part, like you said, of helping them kind of redo their thinking, but then so many times, they talk to a family member on the phone, and they're like, oh, why did you do that, because there was so much undone, their kids weren't cared for, or were with some family, they didn't like them, and it's like, I watched them so often wrestle with this heart to wanna reunite their family, but they didn't have the skills to help them, and even sometimes when they did get, like, sometimes, they just lumped them all back together and it just blew up again, because the kids have anger and issues, and the wife or spouse has anger and issues, or the grandma that's been raising the kids doesn't wanna give, and all those sorts of things. And I had a huge heart at the time, like, you've gotta walk through that with them, to help them, cause you're just bound to do the same thing again. And so anyway, what kind of, like, what is your prayer for that, what's that look like?
So what that looks like is this, the 8-week program, right? So let's say, for instance, you said, well, Eric, I want to do this, right? Then what I would do is I would say, okay, for the 8 weeks, facilitate this program because it covers that, right? But here's the other side of that, because there's 2 components. We may reach, because I've already put a sign-up sheet in Jackson Prison, right? I've already got guys who come down to the chaplain's office, if you need help. But here's what we gotta do, reach out to the families, right? So what does that look like? Okay, I go into Jackson, I get a list. I come back with 20 names and there's this person on there. What's the next step for us? We call. Hey, my name is Eric Dwayne, I'm with Prison Outreach Incorporated. We have a facility, located in Snellville. Here are the programs that we offer, right? Then that part of you that has experienced that, now that ministry can kind of kick in because you can relate. You can say, well, here's what we offer, here's why you need to come. So now you have families, you may have mothers showing up with their kids or mothers showing up by themselves or whatever, trying to get that support. So we're not looking like we're all over the place. This 8-week program just keeps repeating, right? And so the thing is, we teach them about relationships. That's one of the things that we cover. We talk about, financial things, all of those things that you probably identify that they struggle with. And here's the thing, they may not get it in that 8 weeks. Come back for another 8 weeks. Keep coming till you get it. That's what that looks like. So it gives us a chance to interface.
So that's with the family
And the individual. So because when I said earlier holistic, that's what I mean by that. We're covering, I don't wanna focus on the individual and then not focus on the family, because here's the reality, the family is out here now.
Right.
That individual's still locked up, so we can get
this
in.
cycle to go get.
Exactly.
When you were sharing the other day, I was thinking that you may be interested in coming, because a lot of programs, not knocking them at all, they're doing the best thing God put there, but they just look at the individual and not so much the family unit, and this individual is part of this family unit, so if this unit is sick, it's just gonna keep going.
And the thing is, that's why I say I give credit to the Holy Spirit, because it seems like a very practical thing to do, but if it was, it would have already been done. Right? So that's another reason why I'm excited, because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people are in this room, and we're talking about starting something revolutionary. Because we do this right, it's a model that can be shown to so many different people. And at the end of the day, it's not hard, it's what we do anyway. It's what Jesus taught us to do anyway, right? But the thing is, you gotta have a leader that has the vision for that, to say, okay, I get that. We like work-based model ministry. Because that's what it's gonna take. Because it gives you your outreach, it gives us an opportunity to identify with them. And the thing is, they may say, man, that program is at a church. Because you'll be amazed at how many people are turned off by just knowing that they gotta go to a church. And we wanna change that narrative. Yeah, we're a church, but we have a community-based program. The church is just a building, like Sheldon was saying Sunday, the institution, but we're the church, you know what I mean? Show up. So to kind of answer your question, that's how we'll do that, because I'm really focused on that. I'm really focused on making sure we reach the families, because they're the ones that are out here now. Because unfortunately, that individual who's incarcerated, there's really not much they can do anyway. But here's what I've learned. If you get a dad that's incarcerated and he signs up for a program, or he gets something to help his family, and he can call home and tell his wife, hey, I signed you guys up. It gives him some sense of, I did something to help my family. And especially if she likes it, you know. So for us, that's what we want to focus on, because now when he comes home, or now we'll be able to go into prison when she comes home, well, we've already been dealing with the family. So it makes it a little easier, that transition that you were talking about, because we've identified with that. Here's the other thing that's really important. These people are people that I can reach out to, and we contract them out. But we have psychiatrists that we can reach out to, people who are already licensed in certain areas that the court is going to require, right? And I learned this early on. It's better to contract those people and get those people to buy into Division 2 than you to try to take that on into the organization on your own. Does that make sense? So, you know, that's a part of what this 6 or 7 year period has been about, me really learning. You know, so that now God can say, okay, you're prepared. You've endured your preparation season, now go walk into that, and you all are a part of manifesting it. You know. Yes, ma'am.
So just to get it clear of what you're saying, so the 8-week program is both for the prisoner, and then there are programs that are for the families as a part of that curriculum?
Yeah, because the same thing, we do the same program on the inside. So while the inmates are on the inside, they would have went through the program on the inside, but out here, of course, they can't come, so it's strictly for the family.
Right.
We're
So it's
both.
not-
I'm sorry.
I would imagine that the one for the people inside is like job training and that kind of stuff. Is the one for the family more of how to help the person? I mean, I'm not sure.
So there is a, and the thing is, I don't have it, and I apologize for that, because I should have had the slide with the 8 weeks that we have. I apologize, I'm sorry for that. I'm gonna get everybody's information though, and I'll email it to you.
Okay.
But on that, yes, to answer that question, it's once again, I wanna use this word because it's really important, because I think it kinda explains what I'm looking at, holistic, right? When I use that word for the family, right, it's really important that we connect with what their challenges are too, right? Because from family to family, one person's anxiety may be a little bit different than the other person's anxiety when they're talking about a loved one coming home. Because like for one person, a loved one coming home may be, man, he's been violent, every time he comes around, it's havoc. The other person may be, man, you know, he can do good if he can just stay off those drugs. The other person may be, oh man, you know, he just made a bad mistake, and you know, he's a good person, he just needs help. So by working with the families, we can kind of take the layers off and find out, okay, what do you really need, right? But the program is an overview to unlock that. Because out of that program, now you might have to do one-on-ones. Does that make sense? So once you realize who those people are, now, like you said, there may be a family that needs counseling. You might need to get them in front of Sheldon as soon as possible, because they need some, you know, they need some real spiritual development. And we can identify those things. If we, you know, we got a person that we identify that dealing with substance, we got Celebrate Recovery here, right? So we can plug them. And that's the beautiful thing about this ministry. There are some things that are already in place that I can tell these families, you know, food. Okay, we don't have no problem feeding nobody, right? So now we can put the word out. People may come here for that. Then they can come back, well, come back to the program, right? So it's different ways that we can, you know, pique their interest. You know.
I was gonna say, do you mainly deal with adult inmates, or do you deal with any youth inmates?
So to answer your question, yeah, we basically deal with adults. I would love to be able to get to a point where we can, you know, deal with youth and that, but that's just not where God had me focused right now. You know, I think primarily because a lot of where my focus is comes from my experience and expertise. But I would love because, you know, we need to create a model of prevention, right? To get to our young people before, you know, they
That's,
get into that.
that's my follow-up question, is some of these adults maybe that go through your program, is there any way to work into the program where they talk to the youth?
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, once again, that's how we can grow, you know what I mean? You know, that's part of why we're having this interest meeting, to talk about what are the possibilities, you know, because what you're talking about, you may be the guy that can say, okay, man, let me focus on the youth detention centers. because you got a heart for the youth, you know what I mean? We still have the program set up, because they're gonna, if you go talk to a youth detention center, you say, well, you've been going into an adult facility for the last 5 or 6, 7 years, they're gonna listen to you. Because they're gonna believe that they already know a lot of that, the training is already there, you know? Roger, you have another question?
Yeah, so say for example, if someone was getting out of Jackson today, and how would you facilitate them as far as, housing?
Well, right now, the housing, so great question. So what we're doing right now is, we're really just kind of recommending them to people who have halfway houses, right? Like in that flyer, we did that. We had a house in Lithonia, right? It was a 3-bedroom, 2 baths. And when we started renting it, there was a church that was 1,000 feet away. You know, there's restrictions on what you can do, right? And the church was empty at the time, and then somebody purchased the church, a year later. Well, what we were able to do at that time and how we did it is, we're in contact with the counselors at the prison. So the counselors would literally call me, hey, Eric, I got a guy getting out on March the 14th, you got a place for him. Then we could do that now, because I've been doing this so long. I know there are a lot of people that are spread out that run those type of facilities. I got a good relationship with the lady who runs the shelter out in Covington. When they have openings, I've been able to get people in there. But that's the beauty of why we want to get our own. Because, that's the wisdom of the campus, because then I don't have to send them somewhere. I can say, yeah, man, we got a place to send them. Anybody else? All right, man, I think I wanted to keep it to about an hour, because I know everybody has things to do, and it's 10:59. I want to basically just close by saying, if you identify with where you believe you can plug in, right? So now that we've talked, and I know there were some people that wanted to be here that couldn't be here, so if you can share that information with them. But let me recap, just so that you all know, when you walk away from here, you got a really clear vision of what it looks like and what we're doing. So this is about us setting up the infrastructure to have an actual physical facility here at Park Place. So what that means is, in the next 30 to 90 days, depending on what this meeting tells us as leadership of who we have available, now that's gonna dictate how we move. So once we know who we have aboard, once we identify with a site coordinator for Park Place, now we can start to say, okay, here are the programs. Now we can start to put the dates for the 8-week program, right, and just do the work, right? So I will facilitate the back end of that, because all the relationships are in place. Somebody just has to step up from Park Place and say, okay, I'm willing to do that. I can do this. I can plug in here, and then we move forward. Does that make sense? So is that clear? Does everybody kind of have a good understanding of what we're looking at? We actually are saying that this is our main headquarters now. So, we're gonna put it on the website. We're gonna have people to know, because we gotta create a presence, right? I was telling Sheldon this past week, I came out here on Tuesday just to get into the community, just to kind of get a feel. And I didn't go far from the church. I kind of wanted to stay in the radius of the church to get a feel, how do we reach them? Building the relationship with Snellville. I identified the gentleman over there, Sergeant Smith. That's gonna be our point of contact for Snellville, right? So it's really trying to get connected with who's in our reach, right? My next step is gonna be now to figure out what we need to do to get the court system going, so that we can get